listeners, and welcome to the Liberty Mike podcast, broadcasting from an undisclosed location in the heart of Dixie. I am Michael, and I am here with Liberty Larry.
How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
Trying to survive pollen season.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I am congested. My throat's sore. I took my last allergy pill today.
Yeah.
I did leave a message for the doctor to give me a renewal of my prescription.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten the notice from the pharmacy yet.
But you're on the lookout for it,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow if I can't take a pill.
Oh man.
So yeah, I understand.
Dude, it's crazy. It rained the other day, and I was like, oh sweet, it's gonna wash away some of that pollen. And like the next morning, it was like it repollened again. It was like, oh my god, man.
Totally repollinated.
Yeah, like the rain didn't do any good at all. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it probably did some good.
I mean, it had to, because that's what you want and we got a pretty good soaking.
It got pollen out of the air, and then it triggered a bunch of plants to release their pollen.
To do it again, right? Yeah.
That may be what happened. I don't know, man. I don't understand how this works. I just know that I have to use, even if it doesn't rain, if there's no water, I have to use my windshield wipers to clear the pollen dust off of my
yeah. And you park your car in a carport.
Yep.
So you're only picking it up from either the garage or in the wild out there.
Garage, la-dee-da, with your fancy French word.
Oh, yeah.
It's the car hole.
The car hole, okay. The car
Have you
hole.
not seen Simpsons?
Oh, is that a Simpsons? I recognized it, but I didn't know where I recognized it from. Car hole, right.
Mo gives Homer a hard time when he refers to it as the garage.
Garage, yeah.
About his, la-di-da with his fancy French word or whatever. He's like, oh, well, what do you call it? I call it the car hole.
Car hole.
I love that word.
I do like that.
I'm trying to use it more. There's
trying to work car hole in more often.
Yeah. I always forget, in the moment, because he had a whole life of training
to call it a garage. Yeah.
Well. So I'm going to start off complaining about Disney.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Disney's all on board with this DEI stuff and so forth, and pushing all these weird progressive agendas and so on. And so my girlfriend's Korean.
Yeah.
And there's a show called Moving in English that's a Korean TV series that's available on Disney+.
Okay.
You cannot watch it in Korean.
What?
Yeah. Trying to make things easy on her because, she has to spend her whole day translating to English in her head and so forth.
Yeah.
And so we were watching stuff last weekend, and we were like, oh, and she's like, oh, this is a Korean TV series. It's supposed to be really good. Let's watch it. I said, all right. So, and it's English dubbed. And I thought, oh, well, but it's a Korean show, so surely I can go to options and change it to Korean with English subtitles.
That's not an option.
Nope.
That is wild.
Nope. You can't even add Korean subtitles.
Really?
Yep. You just have to watch it in English dub. That's the only option.
The only option you have.
What the hell, man?
Yeah, right. That just doesn't make logical sense.
No. So if you're all on board with this, progressive agenda and so forth, you think that you would make it open for everybody to watch it in whatever language they wanted.
Not in America.
But no, can't do it. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I bet.
No.
So screw you, Disney.
yeah, exactly. Had enough of you anyway. So now the big problem that Disney's having is the Snow White release.
Yeah, they're having a problem with that. That thing didn't make no money.
No. And it cost a lot.
And it cost a lot of money, yeah.
I've heard it's just not a good movie.
That's what I've heard. I don't know. And I know there was a bunch of drama that kind of surrounded the filming.
Yeah, but how many people actually pay attention to the pre-production?
Not me.
Stuff.
I heard, literally, I heard about it and was like, okay, whatever. This is not worth digging into. I'm not gonna go look at the drama.
I mean, I'm sure there's a few people that knew about the main problem is the star Rachel Ziegler, that can't keep her mouth shut, and makes it a point, it seems like, to insult as many people as possible.
Yeah,
but I can't imagine that a whole lot of the potential audience across the country was listening to Rachel Ziegler interviews before
right
going to see the film.
Well, I heard her in an interview. I don't think I'm going to go see that movie.
Yeah. So I think I don't think that her bad behavior had that much of an impact on their box office numbers. I think that it's just a bad movie, and I think part of it is that people have gotten frustrated with Disney consistently producing bad movies.
I think you nailed it right there. I think that that Disney just has such a horrible track record right now when it comes to movies that people are just like, I'm not going to go roll the dice on this one.
Yeah.
For me to walk out halfway through it.
And then by most accounts, it's actually just bad. So then it doesn't even get the word of mouth bump where people are like, the people that did brave it and go see it
start talking about how good it is. Man, that was
great. Yeah.
No, I'm not getting that. So,
but they're putting it down to political issues, the problems between the two stars, which is Gal Gadot and Rachel Ziegler. Rachel Ziegler, who's posting Free Palestine, and Gal Gadot, who fought in the IDF.
Yeah. All right.
Or Gadot. I keep hearing people say Gadot. Maybe I've been pronouncing it wrong all this time. But yeah, Wonder Woman used to be an IDF soldier. She's an Israeli citizen, and so it's because everybody's anti-Semitic that nobody's going to see the film or something.
That's got to be it.
It's either because they hate that Rachel Ziegler is Hispanic or Latina.
Yeah.
Or Latinx, whatever you're supposed to say. I don't know.
Latinx, I hadn't heard that one.
And she's supposed to be white, and so everybody's racist, so they don't go. Or it's because Gal Gadot is Israeli, and everybody's racist, so they don't go.
Yeah.
So Disney's excuse is that everybody's racist.
Yeah.
And they either don't like the Latina or they don't like the Israeli.
Yeah, it couldn't be we just don't like Disney.
Yeah. At this point, I think that's probably the fairest assessment. Of
them all.
Huh?
Fairest assessment of them all.
Yes, exactly. Well played. Now, the whole Gal Gadot thing, I'm going to go back to saying Gal Gadot because it just doesn't sound right to say it the other way to me. I may be mispronouncing her name. I don't know. I don't really care either.
Yeah, all right.
So I do find it interesting, though, that they, at least with this administration, and I can see people, I continue to hear people say that, like, oh, the whole country's anti-Semitic and so on.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, never mind that the last administration and this administration are giving the Israeli government everything that they ask for to proceed to slaughter as many Palestinians as they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I even heard somebody going on and on about how... oh gosh, I wish I could remember who now. Anyway, somebody going on and on about how that they can't believe that anybody wouldn't agree that October 7th was a Holocaust.
That seems a little strong.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe October 7th was a Holocaust where the Palestinians killed 1,200?
Something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Israelis?
Yeah.
But it's not a Holocaust that the Israelis have, in the last year and a half, killed 50,000 Palestinians or more. I think that's more, a complete underestimate, but...
Depends on where you're getting your numbers.
Yeah.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
What's the real Holocaust here? I mean, if we're going to use that term anyway.
Yeah, if that's the term you've chosen, which one does it apply to more?
But more recently, at least with this administration, the thing that has been driving me crazy about this is the censorship. I mean, we talked about the student, the green card getting revoked and all that last time, and I think what I want to kind of point out to people here is is that you can say things in the U.S. critical of the U.S. that you can't say about Israel in the U.S., right? Like, I can call the United States a racist country. I can say that the United States has been committing atrocities and war crimes across the Middle East for decades. That's all okay.
Yeah.
I mean, people will disagree or not, but,
Yeah.
But I can say that, and there's not going to be any real pushback in terms of my ability to say that.
Yeah.
But if I say any of those things about Israel,
Yeah.
then there will be.
Yep.
I can't say that Israel, the country that was set up to be an exclusively Jewish nation, is racist. I can't say that Israel has been committing war crimes and atrocities in Palestine.
Yeah.
That could get me in trouble.
Yeah.
That could get me censored or canceled or whatever.
You're
But I can
get
say
our
those
video taken off YouTube.
Yeah. But I can say those things about my own country in my own country, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't make any sense.
Not from where I'm sitting.
And actually, like, from there, we may as well talk about the signal thing.
Yeah.
So you want to give us a summary on what happened?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like Waltz just, I mean, we're assuming it's Waltz because Waltz said that he set up the signal thread, and just added this, Atlantic news reporter to the thread, where they're talking about bombing the Houthis, and this is all before they've done it. Like, they just, like, it's kind of crazy that a mistake like this could happen. And to me, it's also kind of crazy that we're having these conversations over a signal thread.
Yeah. Well, the Jeffrey Goldberg is the Atlantic guy. He's an editor there, I think. Maybe even higher up than that. But I know that he's an editor.
He's really high up there because, like I was telling you,
I don't
before,
think that he owns it, but he might.
I don't think he's the owner, but he's really high with them. He hosts, so now, and he's been doing it for maybe a year, host one of the shows on PBS, Washington Week, I think, which I've watched for a long time. But once he took it over, and it's Washington Week with the Atlantic is what they call it now. That used to not call it that. And so he's the host. And dude, this guy sucks, man. Like, I just want to say, like, I've heard all this negative stuff about him all week, and I didn't know who he was. I was just like, oh, well, he's a crap reporter, you know.
Yeah.
And then I saw him in
stuff that he's written. He's a hawk. He's a Zionist, and he absolutely hates Donald Trump.
Well, that's what's so crazy, and that's what I was going to say is
But he's an old-style neocon.
Once he started hosting this Washington Week show, it's basically just a round table of reporters plotting against Donald Trump. Like, that's literally what the show is. Like, it's really crazy.
Well, I mean, he was definitely invited by Michael Waltz because he published a screenshot that said, "You've been invited to this thread by Michael Waltz." Yeah.
So it was definitely him that. Okay.
Yeah. So the reason it seems like a good time to transition is because there's some interesting things said in this thread. But one of them that I want to bring up as a transition point is that the VP, J.D. Vance, first off, as far as I can tell from what I've seen and read, is the only person that opposed bombing Yemen right now.
Yep, that is correct.
And now he wasn't opposed to bombing Yemen for any kind of moral or ethical reasons, but at least it was a principled reason in that, it was about America first.
Yeah.
That the U.S. has little shipping in the Suez, that the EU has greater interest. There's not really a strong American interest, and so why are we wasting our money? And it's counter to the kind of policy that we're doing with NATO right now anyway. Let the EU take care of their own problem. Only like 3 or 4% of the shipping through the Suez Canal is United States shipping.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't ever at any point mention that Israel, of course, is the primary target here.
Yeah.
And that this action, all it really does is protect Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was always like, I didn't realize when he was talking about the EU, I was like, well, I mean, Israel's the one they're like after though.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that we're doing this on behalf of Israel.
Yes.
Best I can tell.
Yeah. But it would be anti-Semitic to talk about Israel, I guess.
Maybe that was. You're right. I mean, I actually think you may be right. Like that may have been the reason. I mean, it was a private conversation, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it would be anti-Semitic for him to say, this is a waste of our time because all we're doing is protecting Israel. We're not protecting our own interests.
yeah, well, but it's also not a very strong argument because, like, all of these people in that thread, I'm sure, are all on board with protecting Israel.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you're not going to make if you're trying to make the point to not do it, that's not a good one.
Mm-hmm. But he's correct in that there's really not any strong
America
U.S.
first.
interest in doing this.
Yeah.
And it is counter to the policy that they've been advocating, that the administration has been advocating vis-a-vis NATO, and letting the Europeans take care of their own problems.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because, Europeans like 40% of the shipping.
Is it? Okay.
There. Yeah. It's about 10 times as much as the U.S. shipping through the Suez.
Yeah.
So that was the only objection.
Yeah.
At least that's been published that I'm aware of at this point.
That's the only one I've seen. Yeah.
And then the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, his point was that what we need to focus on here, because one of J.D. Vance's issues was like, this is going to be hard to explain to the American people why this is
necessary.
Worth their taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And Pete Hegseth said, well, we just need to focus on that Biden failed with regard to keeping Yemen in check, keeping the Houthis in check, and that the Houthis are funded by Iran. Yeah. Neither of which is really true.
Yeah.
And in fact, Biden was bombing Yemen during his term, and Trump was critical of that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
But now he's gotten on board too. I mean, it's just like his first term where he's going to be critical of all the wars, but then he expands them when he gets into office, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see how this plays out in Ukraine. At least that one, he still seems to be...
He seems to be committed to ending that one.
Yeah.
But he also seems pretty committed
also at the
to
same
expanding other ones.
Yeah, but he at the same time, he's used the at least the threat of giving more weapons to Ukraine as a way of trying to press his position.
Yeah.
So who knows? The guy's impossible to predict, which I feel like there's not any real strong principle that guides Donald Trump.
There's not.
And that's really the problem, is that it's just whatever seems like the best way to get his way today, and what his way is may be different today than it was yesterday. And
it's like all the variables just constantly change in his mind.
Yeah.
And you just there's no way to predict how he's going to feel from one day to the next.
And Iran has given support to the Houthis in the past. I don't know how much support they provide to them now. The Houthis operate pretty independently at this point. Iran's been very clear about that, that they don't have control over the Houthis.
Yeah.
And the Houthi weapon systems, while they're similar to Iran's, are different. So, again, I think I mentioned this last week. It looks like the Houthis got a seed of Iranian weapons and then have developed their own off of those since.
Yeah, ever since, yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand the goal here of attacking Yemen. It seems like a waste of time and money to me.
Well, and especially when you consider that despite what the propaganda is right now, like, this is not going to stop the Houthis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the real problem, is like, this is nothing but just like a show of force to say we did something. I mean, you're not. This doesn't change the game.
Yeah, that was one of the things in the thread too. Is like we have to make an example. We can't look weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody thinks the United States is weak.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
The whole world is well aware of the power of the United States.
What we're capable of, right?
I mean, we already get our way in almost every respect.
Yeah.
There are a few countries that stand up to us, and
they're on list.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely true. So, but here's probably the most important thing about this whole signal leak. Besides that, it was obviously a huge mistake. Well, I say it was obviously a huge mistake. I have some, because it was taking place on Signal and this guy was added in, I have some feelings that he was intentionally added in. For what purpose, I'm not entirely sure. It may have been to show him that that the United States government, the Trump administration, is attacking the Houthis that are attacking Israel, and since he's such a strong Zionist that, maybe Goldberg would get on board with Trump and give him better press in the future because of this. It may have been an attempt to discredit him that has backfired horribly.
Yeah, if that's the case, it's backfired.
I mean, I don't know. There's a few things. You have any ideas?
I mean, nothing much more than what you just said. I mean, possibly. I mean, I've wondered if Waltz maybe did it just to kind of think somehow that he was going to screw Trump by doing this.
Yeah, well, that could be.
I just, it still doesn't seem like. I mean, Waltz is the one that gets hurt in this, though. Mm-hmm. So, and has made an idiot of himself on TV repeatedly since this happened.
Well, that's kind of the real point to talk about in all this, is that I really think that this story, people would have been critical, but it would have kind of blown over if they had just said, this guy shouldn't have been added in on this thread. That was a big mistake. We can't believe it happened. We'll be putting some systems in place to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future. We're happy that he didn't report on any of this material before the actual strikes took place.
Yeah.
And, I think it would have kind of been over. But instead, the administration went into liar mode. Yeah. And just did everything it could to deny that any of this had happened, including making statements and opening things up for Goldberg, actually, by making statements that there were no operational details. First off, they called him a liar.
Yeah.
And they said that there were no operational details. He's making that up. And then they also claimed that there was nothing classified in the materials within the thread. And so that just gave him a free hand. Because
he has all of these messages.
Because he has all these messages, and they just said that there were no operational details and there's nothing classified. So there's nothing to prevent him from publishing everything he has.
Which is what he did.
Yeah.
So now it's all
Goldberg
out there.
published all this.
Yeah. And it turns out
there were, in fact, operational details.
Yes, there were.
They were talking about when sorties were being launched, what kinds of weapons were being used. Well, I don't know as far as the detail of the weapons, but they were talking about F-18s and what kind of drones they were using and so forth, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as detailed as we're using these kind of bombs or what have you, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what time they launched and what time that they expected to hit their target.
Yeah. That's
significant detail if that information is leaked before the attacks take place.
Exactly.
And he had access to this information before the attacks took place.
Yeah.
And I would say that if they're going to claim that there was nothing classified, no operational details, and there's nothing wrong with this, then it would have been okay. If that's all true, then it would have been okay for him to publish this information before the bombing was completed.
Yeah.
Now, ask yourselves if you think that they would be treating this so nicely if he had released the information before the bombing was completed, or if that they would be prosecuting him under the Espionage Act.
Yeah. For releasing information that he was given.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're going out there and they're trying to make these claims now that are just easily falsifiable lies about what happened here.
Yeah.
It's just kind of incredible to me.
Yeah.
And Waltz himself was, I heard some clips on Glenn Greenwald's show from Waltz on Laura Ingram's show, where she was kind of pressing him about, like,
but not even like pressing him that hard. Like she was really trying to like give him an out.
Yeah.
Like when I listened to it, that's what I heard is she was trying to like,
go ahead, throw one of your staffers under the bus.
like all of these little options for him to, and so he starts like creating these scenarios that anybody that's used a cell phone is like, I don't know, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like,
you know how when somebody sends you a contact, it might be the wrong contact information, but your phone just sucks in the contact information? Like, what? No, that's never happened to me.
Never happened to me. Like, I mean, I've sent some messages to the wrong person. Like, I've done that plenty. And I can see how creating a group chat that I could accidentally add the wrong person.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see doing that.
I mean, I've called the person above my mom in my cell phone list when I was trying to call my mom.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, touch screens.
Fumbly thumbs. I'm like,
you got a fat finger. It hits the wrong button. Like, so I could see that. And more than likely, that's what's happened here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, I do feel like that's probably the most likely scenario is that he just hit the wrong button. It's astonishing to me, though, that you said there was like 17 people other than them two in the chat.
Yeah.
That nobody else in that chat caught that this guy shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not involved in national security or anything, but anytime I get put in the group chat, I check to see who's in the chat, and anybody that's not programmed into my phone where it's just a phone number, I'm asking who 256 is or whoever it is. Yeah. Like, and I want to know who am I speaking to? Like,
Yeah, that's another part that blows my mind about this too, is that the other 17 people didn't look at the group and say, who's this guy?
Yeah. Like, there's no way I would. I mean,
shouldn't all these people in this tiny little planning group within the Defense Department know the other people that they would be talking to on this kind of thing?
Exactly. I can't imagine. Like I say, not in national security at all, but I work groups and stuff like that, even friend groups. Like, I check the group to see who all's in there. I just can't imagine that being in a group like that, not just checking that basic information.
Yeah. I can't believe that 17 people in national security didn't.
Yeah.
Not one of them.
Not one of them.
Yeah.
So it's also astonishing to me that they held hearings on this, like, was it Monday or Tuesday? Maybe it was like days after this. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not normal, is it?
Well, I don't think so.
I mean, it just seems too soon. Like, normally, like 6 months later, like we're having.
I don't know if it would be that much later, but
it just seems odd that we're like within a day or 2 days of this, like we've got everybody in front of Congress grilling them about it.
Yeah.
Not that any of them really had much to say.
Not that I'm aware of was the most oft repeated phrase.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be like the most repeated phrase in every congressional hearing ever in the history of congressional hearings.
No, I think the most oft repeated phrase in the history of congressional hearings is "not to my recollection."
Oh yeah, not to my
recollection.
Yeah, that one will save you from some trouble.
Yeah, but some of those things again. It's like you have to assume that the people that are answering the questions about are you aware of any operational details that were in these text messages that are saying not that I recall or not to my knowledge or whatever they're saying, you have to think that they must have looked at that thread right before they walked in there.
Yeah, there's no way you didn't check that, like, and it's on your cell phone, so like you could check it while you're sitting there.
Yeah.
Like,
well, let me look.
Yeah, exactly.
It just goes to show that they will lie about anything.
Yeah.
And everything. Yeah. And the only point in this lie here is to try and save face.
Yeah, like that's what's so astonishing about you. To me, you just take the L and move on.
Yeah. Like, we screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, we screwed up pretty bad here. We'll make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future. Like I said, that's the answer. Like, if you're a corporate entity, that's what you do, right? Like, okay, well, we made a mistake. We're putting systems in place to make sure that this mistake doesn't happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody's like, well, that was stupid. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, but if you're Trump, and Trump's standing by this guy, like he's not backing down.
You're talking about Michael Waltz?
He's standing by Waltz, yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, like if anybody should be upset here, it should be Trump. And the first question Trump should ask is, why was this guy in your phone in the first place?
Yeah, why
For
are you talking
any
to this
reason.
guy?
Like why? Like yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, of course, Trump at a press conference after this happened said that he wasn't aware of any of this issue. Like, what are you talking about? Is what he said to the reporter.
Really?
Like, what? No, this has been like constant news coverage since this happened.
Yeah.
And we know that you watch the news.
Yeah, if we
Trump.
know anything, you're making most of your policy decisions off of what you saw on Fox last night. So.
Yeah, or well, how they talked about you, I think, is
that's
more
probably
about what
more.
it is. Well, did they? Are people generally saying good things about me for this decision I made, or bad things about me for this decision I made?
It really is kind of that is really kind of how he runs his administration. It's like he makes a bunch of decisions during the day and watches Fox that night, and then kind of polls Fox to see how things are going for him, and then he makes more decisions the next day.
Yeah, are people happy about this or not? I mean, which I'm not actually totally opposed to in some ways. If I thought that Fox represented, like the
public
general
at large,
or even the conservative public. I don't think that
Yeah.
they even really represent the conservative public.
they
so,
don't.
I mean, but at least like that would kind of make sense. Like if you're a populist president, you want to do the things
You
that
want to
people
follow what
are-
the people want
Yeah.
you to do. I can get behind that, but it's just strange.
I know.
Strange times, man.
It really
but you're
is.
really right about the lion thing. Like there's like it's just like when he was on the Laura Ingraham show, like it just didn't make any sense. Like what he was saying made no sense, and just come out with it, man. Like
Yeah.
it just I don't know.
I've known this guy for years. He works as a journalist in defense. I work as a government employee in defense. We've had some conversations. He uses me as a contact to try and confirm information. Of course, I never confirm anything with him.
Right. I would never confirm anything with
Yeah.
him as much as he tries.
But that seems like I have
So
his number
easy.
in my phone so that I can ignore it when he calls.
Yeah.
You know?
Which, by the way, when I'm in those group chats and I'm trying to identify folks, that's the reason I want to know who I'm speaking with,
Yeah.
so I know who to ignore. Like,
Yeah.
256 don't know what he's talking about.
Really hung up on this 256 guy.
I'm telling you.
Those guys from North Alabama.
Yeah, let me tell you, they're ones to ignore. Nah, I'm just playing. We got good folks up there.
I suppose. It's close to Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee's nice though.
Yeah, I like Tennessee.
You like Tennessee, right?
North Alabama,
They've
they've gotten better.
They've done better. Yeah.
They've gotten better.
Wow.
Okay, so do you have anything more to say about that?
No, I
Like I said, the thing to me to focus on is just how willing the government is to lie about things that can be easily shown to be a lie.
Well, and the other thing I'll kind of just mention about this is completely absorbed the news. Like I was watching the news last night, and they had different people on interviewing everybody. That's all they talked about for the most part. So does kind of make you wonder what else is going on that we're just not being told. So
Yeah. So last weekend, we had the Baldwin County Libertarian Party convention.
County Party Convention.
Yeah, late. It was supposed to be in October.
This was a make good. Yeah.
It's a makeup convention. This is the 2024 convention that we had last weekend.
Yeah.
We'll have the 2025 convention in a few months.
Which, by the way, we had strictly because we just forgot to do it.
Yeah.
That tells you how good our organization is. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's like 6 or 8 active people.
Yeah.
So if you're in Baldwin County and you're interested in what we're saying, like go to the Baldwin County Libertarian Party page on Facebook and track events.
Yeah.
And show up.
Jeff does a pretty
Please.
good job with putting stuff up there. So
We could use some fresh blood.
yeah, we could use a little help, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, so I gave a speech. Not my best speech, I don't think. Well, the speech wasn't so bad. The present, I don't think I delivered it that well.
I mean, I thought it was good, but I mean, I definitely enjoyed the content.
Well, thank you. Maybe I'll talk about that stuff some other time.
Yeah.
But we also had somebody that speak. The keynote was a girl that has been lobbying for
Medical
legalization of marijuana
Yeah.
in Alabama.
Which, by the way, for any of y'all listening that aren't in Alabama, this is a tall order.
Yeah. And most of what she was saying, because we did pass medical marijuana a few years ago.
Yeah.
But a lot of what she was saying is that while it, like, de jure, it's fine now, de facto, it's still not.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's Alabama. It's the Bible Belt for one, and our politics are just as corrupt as they come.
Yeah.
I mean that's really, if you wanted to like boil down what she said in her speech, that was pretty well the crux of it.
Yeah. But somehow I roped my girlfriend into coming to this thing.
Yeah.
And so we ended up in a discussion about whether it was okay to ignore laws that we believe to be unjust.
Yeah.
And her position was that it's not, that you have a responsibility to try and work through the system to change unjust laws, but if you just ignore laws that you feel are unjust, then it eliminates the rule of law. Then you're not living in a society with a rule of law. And I've made the case on this podcast before, and I made the case to her that there's no such thing as rule of law to begin with, that the whole thing is a myth.
Yeah.
I use as my primary source for that argument an essay by Jonathan Hasnas, I believe is the name, Hasnas, called The Myth of the Rule of Law.
Yeah.
Which I suggest you all look up and read. It's 20 pages. It's not that long.
Yeah.
Really interesting. But the crux of it is that there's so many laws that they contradict each other, and that you can kind of make any case you want. Like on any particular issue, you can make a reasonable legal case on either side of it.
Yeah.
And so therefore this, spaghetti code of the rule of law of these laws, all this legislation that we have, is used in such a way that you have a multi-tiered legal system where the law is used to support some groups or people at the expense of others.
Yeah.
And then on the question of whether I believe that it's okay to ignore a law that you feel is unjust, I said yes.
Yeah, without question.
And so the example I used was discriminatory laws in the past. I said, if there's a law that says that restaurants can't serve some particular race, is your position then that restaurants should just not serve that particular race until they get the laws changed?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that is in any way just. I think that it is...
well, and you'll never get it changed that way. The system is set up to not make those type of changes without some kind of catalyst. Yeah.
Well, and she said, well, if everybody just ignores the laws that they don't like, then it just becomes chaos. And I said, like, that's not an unreasonable point. Like, I certainly understand that. But
I think that's in the market though. That's how you get the law. That's how you keep the laws that are good and lose the ones that are bad, is through people being like, well, I don't think this is right, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then enough people doing that the law gets changed.
Yeah. And that was kind of my final point to her, was that the most effective and quickest way to get unjust laws changed is by mass resistance to those laws. Yeah. And the truth is that most people, the vast majority of people, have a pretty strong internal moral compass.
Yeah.
that there won't be mass resistance to just laws. We got a pretty good sense for ourselves. I mean, there are always going to be people that want to take advantage of any system for their own good, but most people have a moral sense, a sense of justice, a sense of honor, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And there wouldn't be mass resistance to just laws.
Exactly.
If you're going to end up with mass resistance to a law, it's almost certainly unjust.
Exactly. So there you go.
That's the argument, I guess.
Yeah. So now we need to all unify to not pay taxes.
Right.
Like unjust laws. Like we're a group, guys. We gotta all be in this together. It's gonna take all of us.
Yeah.
They can't lock us.
Tax day is coming up.
It is coming up. They can't.
A couple of weeks.
They can't arrest all of us, man.
I've already paid mine, actually.
I paid mine too. I'm a lonely little statist over here.
Yeah.
I enjoy my freedom too much to.
Every year, though, I do talk to my accountant about if he has any problem with withholding a quarter of the taxes that they claim I owe because I disagree with them using it to blow stuff up halfway around the world.
Yeah. What kind of response you get for that?
He's like, I can't sign off on that.
I can't sign. Yeah, I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find a better accountant.
At least they don't owe me much. And I know that most people say, oh, well, I love that big tax return. To me, if I have a big tax return, I'm really irritated that I just gave a interest-free loan to the government for that amount.
Yeah.
I try and get it as close to what I owe as
you balance
possible.
It out, right?
Yeah. So I don't get a big tax return every year, and if I do, I screwed up, and I'm going to go change my W-4.
Right. Got to dial it in.
Yeah. But we were talking about property taxes the other night. Because there are a few states in the South that don't do income tax, and they make up for that in other ways. So Texas was the one that we were talking about primarily, who makes up most of their taxes through property taxes. They also have a sales and use tax that they charge to businesses.
Yeah,
but I think that most of their tax revenue comes from property taxes.
Yeah.
And there's been a big influx into Texas from blue states in the last few years that we're all aware of, mostly as a result of the COVID insanity.
Well, it started before that, but it ramped up during COVID.
Yeah.
So,
and there's some people that I listen to that live in Texas have been complaining about their property taxes because the property taxes are based on the property values, and all this influx of people buying property in Texas has driven up property values and driven up the taxes.
Yeah.
But then we just started talking about property taxes in general.
Yeah, which seems like, I don't know, all taxes seem unjust to me, but particularly property taxes is one that just really kind of sticks in my craw because you bought this piece of property, you own it, and you really don't own it. Because if you don't pay the property tax, you have no way to, other than just not owning property, you have no way to escape it. Mm-hmm. You're just you have to pay it. And if you don't, the government will come take your property.
Yeah. So you're paying a lease to the government.
Yeah, you're renting it from the government forever.
Yeah.
Like there's no escape from it. And it really is a problem like in Texas when like you can't control that your property went up in value. Like that, you don't have any. There's no way that you can, because the government. By the way, the government's the one who assesses the value and comes up with what the value is anyway. So,
yeah,
that's a whole nother layer to it. That
I'm not sure how that works in Texas.
I assume that's how it works in Alabama.
Yeah,
so I just assume that's how it works there. I don't actually know. I guess
I was going to say in Alabama though, the government's assessment of the value of my property has always been less than I could sell it for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like mine was high last time I got it.
Oh, really?
But I don't remember though. I remember complaining because I was like, man, I wish I could sell this house for that.
Yeah. Actually, I say that always. That might not have been true when I owned the condo.
Yeah.
Because I bought the condo right before the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
And I got a good deal on it at the time for the values at the end of 2006. Because I mean, I paid about
talk about bad timing, man.
Yeah, I know. I paid about 15 or 20% less than what those condos were selling for at the time.
Yeah.
Because I bought it from a guy who just owned a bunch of rental properties, and it got to be more than he could handle. He was just trying to get out from underneath some of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bought it in December 2006. So I had a good year, and then a bad year.
And then they got really...
And suddenly it was worth half of what, or I could only sell it for about half of what I'd paid for it.
Yeah.
And I think that there were a couple of years there where the assessment was more than I could sell it for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I sold it 2 or 3 years ago for 50% more than I paid for it, so it all worked out.
You just had to hang on to it for all of that time.
Yeah, I had to rent it to somebody else for a while when I bought this house, and
yeah.
But we're off track on the taxes thing.
Yeah.
Point is that you shouldn't have to pay taxes to use property that you've already purchased.
Yeah. Just seems unjust to me.
I paid, and it irritates me more because I paid taxes on the income that I used to buy the property in the first place. I already paid taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then it's the same thing when you buy a car, when you buy anything like it's
Buy groceries.
Buy groceries.
Here there are some states that they don't charge.
And I heard they may be doing something about
groceries.
that too, like dropping the grocery tax again. I don't know, not like dropping it, but like lowering it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
At any rate, yeah, we're taxed too much.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be one source of taxes.
Yeah, and it should be tariffs.
That would be better than a lot of the other options.
Yeah. I mean, it would be, like I say. I mean, it's not perfect, but if we were going to swap the income tax for just raising tariffs,
yeah,
like I'd take that.
If they dropped sales taxes, if they dropped income taxes, and then they dropped property taxes, and they decided to make all that up in tariffs. Actually, I suppose sales taxes are state.
It's state, yeah.
And property taxes are too. I guess the state has to get their own way of generating revenue.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it is frustrating because I feel like I've already been taxed on this. But if the state's going to charge me income tax, then they shouldn't be able to charge me property tax and sales tax.
There you go. And then you end up in Texas where your property taxes are just like massive.
I don't remember what the sales tax is. But they don't charge it at point of sale. They charge it on total revenue from the business. Or at least that's how it works for us. Like we do some business in Texas and we pay off our bottom line in Texas.
Oh, okay. That's different.
Yeah. But I suspect that every business in Texas just adds it to their... I mean, like we add it to our invoices.
I was fixing to say, I thought you were going to say just lies about it.
Well, that might be too. In some ways, I think that might be easier. I know some businesses here that don't charge you sales tax at the point of sale. It's just incorporated roughly into the prices of things anyway, and they pay it off of their revenue.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Instead of it like being added to your charge, you know, like if you go to Walmart, you have the total of your stuff, and then you have the 9%, right?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're buying, but yeah, for the most part, it's 9%.
Yeah, 9% sales tax at the bottom. You wouldn't see that as a separate line item.
Yeah,
but they're still paying it, and so are you.
Yeah, because it's in the price of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I like that better because then at least I don't feel like I'm being taxed.
Well, and you know exactly what you're paying when you walk up to the register.
Yeah, yeah. If it says $100 on the box, then you're paying $100.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty nice because then I can do that kind of math in my head.
Yeah, right.
Well, anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
We didn't really go into taxes in the way that I thought we would, but. That's okay. We don't have to. Yeah. It's not that important. Yeah. Everybody knows that taxes are terrible.
Taxes suck, man.
Yeah. This is the one way that you can like most easily get people to start listening to you as a libertarian.
Well, and that's so I was fixing to say, like, if the Libertarian Party was smart, like, we would just lean into that message
Yeah.
and just like go for it, man.
Taxation is theft.
Taxation is theft, and just roll with it, man. Like,
Yeah.
you don't meet too many people that when you're wearing a shirt that says taxation is theft that like give you the old, oh no, that's the price we pay for a civilized society. Like, it's just all I get is hurrahs about the shirt when I'm wearing it.
I was at some store. This is so many years ago now.
Yeah.
But wearing a shirt that said taxation is theft.
Yeah.
And this lady like stopped me and was like, "What does that mean?" And I started explaining it to her, and she was a tax attorney.
Yeah.
She was like highly offended by my t-shirt.
By your shirt, yeah.
And everything worked out fine. Like we talked for probably 30 minutes in the store.
Did you win her over?
No, probably not. But I made my point clear. I mean,
Yeah.
she wasn't arguing against my logic exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is that there are major industries built around taxes.
Yeah.
Accountants and attorneys that are just built around taxes. Their whole industry around taxing.
Yeah, right.
And so you're forcing all those people to do something productive with their lives instead.
Right.
And they're, people
They
people
take
that
offense to that.
Yeah, people that aren't doing things productive with their lives are generally resistant to being forced to do something productive with their lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
I'm generally resistant to having my product taken away from me.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
it all works out in the end, I guess. And it's back to one of those things. People complaining about cutting federal employees.
Yeah.
And you'll hear from time to time, and this is one of those things that I used to complain about Jen Briney from Congressional Dish podcast.
Yeah.
Her podcast was one of the first podcasts I listened to, and I loved it. Yeah. I don't listen to it anymore. It's been a long time. I just can't fit it in.
Yeah.
And her podcast has changed a fair bit from what it was when I was listening to her.
Yeah, because you were probably listening to her before Trump came around.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I started listening to her during the Obama years. And at the time, she just read all of the legislation that was going through the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And reported on it, which was thank you.
All right.
God, what a terrible job that is. But
yeah,
thank you.
It's nice. Yeah.
Anyway, there was one time that it came up with her, but so I'm not going to criticize. She might have learned about this by now, so I'm not going to criticize her further. But I've heard others say more recently with all these federal layoffs that the country is having problems generating tax revenue. We're in a deficit, and you're laying off all these people, so you can't collect taxes from them. I'm like, well, but you do understand.
Holy crap, man!
That they're paid out of taxes.
Yeah, right. You exist solely because of taxes.
Yeah. And so if we stop paying them at all, it actually saves.
That is a savings, money. Yes. Yeah. Like, I ain't good at math. I'm horrible, but I can figure that one out.
Yeah, it's just moving water from one bucket to another.
Exactly.
Like if you use taxes to pay that person and then they pay part of it back as taxes, you're still saving money by not paying them at all in the first place.
Exactly.
Saving tax money.
Tax money, yeah, exactly. That's pretty simple.
It seems like it, right? But people
they don't make the connection.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Okay. Well, we may as well wrap up there because we're kind of staring at each other blankly now.
Yeah, it's time for me to get out of this chair.
Yeah, and I'm tired of talking, man. My throat hurts.
Me too, man.
So, all right. Well, we'll just wrap up then. And let's see. We'll be back next week. It'll be the first week of April.
Ooh.
That's not significant in any way, really, but
I don't know.
Thought I'd point it out.
Yeah.
We will not be here on Thursday, though, because I have an event I'm going to Thursday.
Oh, that's okay.
So it'll be Friday or Saturday.
Hopefully we can squeeze it in.
Yeah, hopefully Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to know in advance, too, because whatever day we're not doing it, I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So I have an event Thursday, and then I'm traveling either Friday or Saturday, depending on what day we're
Recording.
gonna record. Yeah.
Cool.
Because I have ballet to go to.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh,
Don Quixote.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited about it. All right.
You're excited about the ballet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of talent on display at a ballet.
So me and you've probably been to different ballet performances. I've been to my kids' ballet performances.
Oh, yeah. No. This is a professional. Yeah. This is a professional ballet troupe.
Okay. Yeah.
There should be, if there's not real talent on display, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Well.
So anyway, but yeah, we'll be back next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean. Like and share, comment, subscribe. You can always email me at michael@libertymike.com. Tell your friends about us. Interaction helps, like any kind of interaction helps, just the little thumbs ups and what have you on these platforms. I don't understand how these algorithms work, but
no, we could probably be a lot more successful podcast if one of us figured it out.
Yeah,
but neither of us have. So
yeah, I'm not so interested in it that I'm going to look into it, honestly. I like doing this, but I would like to get this out in front of more people. So anything that you guys out there can do that you know of, or even that you don't know of, that could help get us picked up by the algorithm more, please do. Yep. And I know that any kind of interactions do so.
Yeah, we know that helps.
Yeah.
We know enough to know that helps.
You know, bells, buttons, whistles, like whatever those things are, click them.
Yep.
And we thank you for it. And we'll be back next week when we finally get this right. And in the meantime, try to stay free.
Life short, live free.
Ciao.
Later.